European Parliament Member of Parliament, Lola Sánchez from Spain, and we are glad to invite her to this discussion. Welcome to the show. Hi Laura, welcome to the show.
I'm very happy, and this is a pleasure and an honor for me to be here talking to you.
Thank you. So you have actually pioneered a resolution in European Parliament about GSP Plus, and especially in 2009, Sri Lanka was stripped off of GSP Plus, the trade tariff as preference by European Union for human rights violations, gross human rights violations, and other issues, including international covenants, especially not implementing key trade and rights-based covenants. Now, in 2009, the key issue was human rights as well as the others. But in 2017, the European Parliament had now decided to award the trade preference, the GSP Plus, back to Sri Lanka. Now, what has changed in your view over this period?
Well, I think that Sri Lanka is now in a different stage, no, than in 2009, of course. But there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot left to do now by this government. So what has changed? Okay, European Union now is a massive signature of international trade deals and international accords of trade, and Sri Lanka is a key element of that, because of you are producing a garment that we are consuming, that the European people is consuming every day. So that's the point that the European Union wanted to grant your country again with the GSP Plus, that gives this garment sector access to our market. Okay, this is okay. This is super good for your country, but it depends on which conditions we grant this access. So I think that we you have done a lot of work, you civil society in Sri Lanka, because your voices arrive to this strange house, to this parliament that sometimes is far away from the real problems of the real people. But we hear your voices, decided to go to your country and to see on the ground what is really happening there, happening with the labor rights, but more important with human rights in your country. So we came back to Brussels and we asked for a rejection to this GSP Plus granting. It was not voted in favor. Actually, you got the GSP Plus, but we have to say that it was a very good movement to put this rejection on the table, because it arises a lot of awareness among a lot of members here in this parliament that were asking why did we do that? No, why did we make the rejection?
Yeah, here in the civil society and human rights activists and the workers' rights activists, like, we feel that over the years there are a lot of patch-ups, but not real kind of change, especially in the human rights angle. The Human Rights Council is involved in these investigations, which never went anywhere. It's been actually prolonged. And also, especially the labor rights and the rights to form trade unions and all, it's barred in the north and east, because very specifically the issue is key in the north and east. Now, under all this mix, now how come the European Union as a whole, I mean, we are very glad that you raised this issue as a group, but how come the other groups or other members haven't looked at it in that perspective? I mean, I can understand there is trade issues, but was echoed well within all sectors or all sides of the parliament?
Well, what happened is that when we arise this rejection to the GSP Plus, that had to be voted in the plenary, and it was voted in the plenary. You know, only to raise this issue makes the members to know what is going on. you know. But the best part of that is that at the moment that we presented the rejection, in very few days, we had here in Brussels representatives of Sri Lanka government, you know, to talk with a lot of members, with a lot of eurodeputies, you know, to explain how are they going to tackle the problems with human and labor rights violations in your country. So even when the rejection was not voted in favor, you know, and you got the GSP plus, now we have on the paper a lot of commitments, you know, that that your government made to a lot of members here in the parliament and even to the commission, you know. So now we have a very clear roadmap on how this government has to tackle with these issues. And this is the good point, that now we can monitorize their activities, and we have now to ask, for example, you Tamil people, you are feeling if you are seeing, watching and living changes in the very few months that come in ahead. So
what would be the key aspects would be, like, in the interest of audience, can you actually list down one or two key aspects that will be monitored?
Well, we will be monitoring not only the signature of these ILO conventions, but the implementation. That it's the very important part, no? Because if a government can sign everything, I mean, you can sign whatever that you want, but if you don't leave it to the ground, if you don't deliver laws that have to be enforceable in the ground, you know, it's like doing nothing. So it's not only signing, it's the most important part is implementing that. So we are going to be very, very aware of the implementation of these ILO conventions in the labor aspect. And in the human rights aspect, we have to check many other issues. One of them is about your people, the Tamil people, and the misleadings of so many people. We have to know. And we are going to push the government one and again and again and again till they deliver answers to that. And of course, we will have to look for responsibles of that.
Yeah, it's a good point that you raise about missing people, and also along with that, the Prevention of Terrorism Act, because one of the key acts to be repealed, and it was echoed across human rights spectrums. Now, what we see now is just a name change, because that law hasn't been completely repealed, and also mentioning as kind of terrorism-related offenses in the term there, which actually is very, very vague, and how that monitoring is going to happen, because it is not only the law is completely passed or not even ratified yet. So that's going to be a key issue, don't you think so?
Yes, of course. Okay, now the Commission has a compromise, you know, on monitoring that. And with the help of the United Nations, and we know that ILO is working with you also closely, but European Commission now has a responsibility on that. And we, as the European Parliament, as the democratic chamber of the European Union, we have to put an eye on that and keep on asking them and keep on pushing them and fostering the Commission to deliver answers and to deliver information on what's going on. And then in 2 years, we will have to grant again the GSP plus. So now Sri Lanka government has a lot of work to do if they want to repeat the granting of the GSP plus. So, you know, this is like, well, you have 2 years to deliver many issues on human rights, and the work is just started now, you know, and of course we are very committed with you, and we are very committed with your country, and we are going to be very pressive with your government.
It is good to hear that from you. But on the other hand, we have, I mean, also you mentioned about this is the only democratic forum or chamber, and Tamils around the world, especially in Europe, tried their best in lobbying all sectors within, because that's the only democratic space that we have to lobby and explain our plight and what's happening. Now, if we still see kind of group patterns in terms of voting as well, we were quite disappointed why the Greens haven't overwhelmingly voted, because even though they were concerned about lots of issues in terms of environmental issues as well in those concern. Now, also many Tamils have lobbied the conservative and the socialist major groups, because those are the major groups in European Parliament. In your opinion, why do you think those advocacies have failed?
Well, the conservatives always look for profits before any other issue. You know, we are watching this every day and we see how they vote. And social democrats, well, this is a very big problem that we have in Europe now, because social democrats are not social anymore. As you can see, they always vote with the conservatives, and they are always defending trade, European trade, before anything else, before human rights, before the protection of the environment, before everything. So we are used to these weird things that should be denounced. I mean, we have to say which is the priority of these groups. But apart from that, there are many members in this parliament that even if they are from these groups, they have a special sensitivity with these issues, because, for example, are working on development issues or human rights issues in these commissions. So when issues like this came to us, we always look for these concrete members that have a special sensitivity on that to keep the group inside. This time was not possible, but we know that, as I was telling before, the government came to a lot of members, with many of them, saying that they are committed with human rights and with labor rights, that they are going to do this issue and on these fields. And okay, they have given their word. As,
lots of promises.
As I can say. Yeah, they have delivered promises, and then it's not only the European left who is committed with that. There are other members of other groups that are also committed with this issue, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, normally they say when there is an issue like this democratically voiced, the European government or European MEPs have some vested interest in constituencies, because I'm gladly I can see that there's no Tamils in your constituency, but you have taken this as an issue based in terms of in principle. Now, what would you like to say to the other MEPs, how they should look at it in principle? I know some of them will work on their own interest. Also the Tamils who actually lobby their MEPs, because it's not just in the UK, but although all the European countries, now from UK is gone out of the European Union, it's going to be Europe mainly, especially Germany and France. There are large numbers of Tamil population who have been victims of the war, have to actually fled the country, and what they should tell their MEPs, and because in your experience,
they should tell the MEPs of any group. I mean, it doesn't matter, that they have to put an eye on how our trade policies are helping or damaging people around the world. You see, and especially with countries like Sri Lanka, you know, that is now living a new time in your history, and that you have now an opportunity to make things different from the region where you are. For example, we don't want you to become another Bangladesh. You know, we don't want that, and for sure you don't want also. You have now a super amazing opportunity to do things well, but you have to think all the time that the problem of Sri Lanka is a human rights problem in all the country. You know, I know that Tamil people is the most damaged people the most damaged region in the country, that you are mistreated, of course, but the human rights violations are on the country, as I saw in my trip. So it has to be a nationwide issue that all the Sri Lankan people, they live where they live. You defend the human rights in all your country. You have to push for that, and I think that this government is very tight now with the European Commission, with the European Union, with many members of this European Parliament. They are very committed, and then you have to push them and you have to ask them to deliver these commitments that they granted here in Brussels.
Finally,
we are together on that.
Yeah, finally, on reporting these things, what's happening, because they will be monitoring, I mean, especially human rights activists and people on the ground. Apart from going through MEPs, what are the other channels available for them to actually express? Because not just, I mean, obviously human rights is a major issue, key issue, and there are other covenants which are not being implemented. Even, for example, ICCPR, there are lots of covenants not being implemented. But also, on the other hand, across the island, the labor rights and the one of the key underpinning of this this trade preferential is that the profit should actually, a percentage of the profit should go to the workers. But that is not ensured. So if there are those kind of incidents, what are the other avenues for the activists? They can actually take it to the European Parliament apart from the government, apart from the MEPs.
Well, yeah, I have to say that we got a compromise from the Labor Ministry that the benefits of the GSP Plus granting will go also to the workers. And when we asked how much, he told 50%. 50%. I mean, half of the benefits will go to the workers. So now I guess I would say, okay, I don't have all the answers, of course, but I will say that you Sri Lankan people have to join together in a workers' union. You know, I know that it's quite difficult in some places to do that, you know, but every time that you are not granted to do so, you have to denounce it. I mean, now Sri Lanka have many eyes on it. It's ILO, it's European Union, it's United Nations. So now you have the opportunity to go where all these people that from outside are trying to make change and denounce it. I mean, of course, the workers' union is fundamental. It's the key point to improve the workers' rights, and more of that, the human rights. But I guess that this is a national-wide problem, and you have to be together in that.
We are glad that with already the many eyes on Sri Lanka, and you have opened up another few pairs of eyes to look at it, and your work has been great in the European Parliament and also your trip. Thank you very much for that. Hopefully at some point we will see how we can actually, how the things are progressing, and we will actually get a brief update from you at some point of time, at least let's say midpoint of this review. So thank you very much, Lola Sánchez, joining us from European Parliament.
A pleasure. Good luck, big force. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.